Thank you, Mr. Deputy President. Two fears lie at the heart of the constitutional recognition debate. On one side, a fear of being out of control, of losing power, and on the other, a fear of not being heard and forgotten as an individual and a people. They are fears that we all share, even from childhood. Letting go to move forward requires a willingness on both sides to embrace shared responsibility. This allows shared ownership of the future and a recognition that all voices in the Australian project are valued. A constitutionally enshrined Indigenous voice to Parliament offers this solution. It is about the powerful listening and the maligned taking responsibility. Like most of my coalition colleagues, as a constitutional conservative, I do not believe the Constitution should be changed often or for political reasons. But it is important to recognise that our Constitution does allow for change. The founders of colonial Australia anticipated that there would be times where this was relevant. The good governance of our country relies on a strong and relevant foundational structure. It is a core Liberal principle that strong institutions underpin a legitimate system of power and governance. In this context, a voice to Parliament seeks to bolster our government's legitimacy and decision-making by offering insight from a people who have the benefit of over 60,000 years of management experience to offer. It does not seek to have any veto power over the existing House of Representatives or Senate, or be a third chamber of Parliament. The Voice's function is to gather the diversity of views that exist amongst Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities across Australia and report them to the government on relevant matters. Some say that an Indigenous voice to Parliament creates division between groups and elevates one race above another. But consider that we already have a different class of people in Australia. People singled out since 1788 as persona non grata, unwelcome in their homelands, only allowed the right to vote in 1962, and only considered worth counting in the census through a successful constitutional change in 1967. I believe fervently that a society divided by class is not a useful frame for advancement, but statistics reveal that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are already outliers in Australian society. Health outcomes, including a life expectancy of 73 years for Indigenous people compared to 83 years for the overall population of Australia. Domestic violence, where Aboriginal women were 33 times as likely to be hospitalised due to family violence assaults than non-Indigenous women. And education. The solution cannot be to ignore these realities by simply claiming that ideological egalitarianism is already enshrined in the Constitution. Where the country's governance is not addressing a serious problem within existing processes, it must be reassessed for efficacy. The Closing the Gap targets are achieving mixed results, and very few are on track to meet their goals. Action towards a solution to these realities has been offered with a voice to Parliament, a focused funnel for policy suggestions and direct guidance from the perspectives of those affected most. A voice solidifies the ardent desire of Aboriginal people to be responsible for the future of their own people and this nation in a rich, sometimes terrible cultural context. The desire to be responsible lies at the heart of Liberal philosophy. A voice to Parliament is about building equality of opportunity, just as previous referenda have sought to do. The Honourable Ken Wyatt, a Liberal and the first Australian Indigenous Federal Minister, said in a speech to the Press Club, "All they want is for governments to hear their issues, stories, and their matters associated with their land, their history." To address the out-of-the-ordinary imbalances I've spoken of requires extraordinary work. Constitutional change admits the need for our federal parliament and government to work more effectively to serve the people of Australia. The Voice to Parliament asks us all to accept that Aboriginal people want to be the architects of change for unacceptable statistics and all too many difficult lives. As a Liberal and a constitutional conservative, I feel strongly that self-determination of citizens is a surer way to our country's prosperity than any other. Rewarding enterprise is a fundamental principle. An additional clause in the Constitution not only requires our Parliament to listen to an Aboriginal perspective, it also asks Aboriginal people to become more responsible for their destiny. These are duties not to be taken lightly on either side. Nothing could be more liberal, more conservative, than to respect the traditions of our past and combine them to strengthen the legitimacy of our foundational document. The shared commitment to a fairer nation is where we overcome our fears and embrace action together as Australians. For this reason, I endorse the Voice to Parliament.